Ruth, thank you so much for bringing me to your favourite bar, the Long Hall, Dublin.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. It's
It's
Friday. I'm thirsty.
listen. Do you know what? I feel like I'm in a museum,
It
and
looks
I'm and
it.
I'm old enough to be an exhibit. But it's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It's just every time you walk in, you're hit with the history of the place.
It's just incredible, and I have been there many times myself. But somehow, when I see it in the pictorial fashion now, it does look like a stage setting or a reproduction. But this is what it's like when you walk in. This is the vibrancy of what you see, right?
That's it. I think usually when you walk in, because it's so full always, that what you're doing is looking for a seat. You're not taking in your surroundings.
It's incredible. So why is this your favorite bar of all the bars?
Yeah, so the reason I picked it is I lived in the UK for a number of years. And when I first moved over now, it was a good while ago, they were still doing, I think it was Arthur's Day. Do you remember that? Have a pint at 1759. So I was only over in the UK a couple of weeks and our local pub was doing Arthur's Day. And I was like, great, a bit of nostalgia for home after 2 weeks. Went down
You're only there 2 weeks.
like 2 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Went down with my roommates. We're looking for excuses to bond, get to know each other.
Mm.
Ordered a round of pints. The pints come, and I take my first sip, and I couldn't swallow it. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever had. It wasn't just the pour; there was something off. So I
Yeah.
brought it back up. The guy stuck a straw in it, tasted it, and told me, "No, that's just what Guinness tastes like." So obviously, I didn't finish that pint.
Ooh.
And I was in the UK for 7, 8 years and never ordered another pint of Guinness in the UK again. But that
Wow.
Christmas, I came home and was organising where to meet friends, and we decided on the long haul. And I walked in, ordered my pint, and my first sip just felt like I was properly home.
Isn't that just exactly what a lot of people don't understand? Drinking a pint of Guinness is not just the pint of Guinness.
No,
It's a funny thing, and it's an experience.
yeah, it is. And
And
especially in those surroundings.
the straw bit, I have to go back to. I mean, irrespective of whether it's Guinness or whether it's lager or whether it's cider, what's the straw bit?
So this has happened to me a couple of times, and probably more so in the UK than Ireland, but they basically stick a straw in it, put their thumb over the top, take it out, and just pour it into their
Ah,
mouth to taste. And so
okay,
they'll do it quite often to pints if you say the barrel's off or something.
okay. I know certainly, and I don't know, don't drink now much. So there was a time when remember all the pipes and stuff in the bar had to be cleaned out so many times, and that Guinness had yeast, therefore it physically was growing. So
Mm,
you put your life in your hands, I guess.
yeah, I learned a hard lesson that day.
You learn to hard lesson. Well, that's a lovely story, right? So it's connecting you sort of with the bar, the experience, the whole lot. And it's in a really handy part of Dublin too, isn't it? It's
It
sort of in
is.
between everywhere.
Yeah. And everything around it's gotten a bit more modern, but that stayed exactly the same. You just see that awning and it just stands out on the street.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. And I guess they haven't become a gastro pub because that's a
No, not
real
yet.
challenge.
Although I've been in there a few times that they've handed out kind of the triangle sandwiches to keep you there.
Oh yeah, but they probably still have the old King crisps,
Oh, yeah,
King crisps, and maybe a bit of Tato on
yeah.
occasion. Great history, great battle between the north side of Dublin and the south side of Dublin about King and Tato. Oh, excellent.
I don't actually know that story.
Well, I think it's actually about Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, but this is the non-political daytime show, so we're not going to actually. So listen, you're sitting there. Brendan Behan is in one corner,
Yeah.
Kavanagh's in the other, and you're there, and you're going to regale them with a quote. What's your favorite one?
So, okay, so I'm not usually one for quotes. They don't often resonate with me. But there's one that actually jumped out for me when I was thinking about this, and it was "This too shall pass." And the reason I chose that was not necessarily because of the quote, but I remember for the first time hearing Tom Hanks deliver it in a big speech during COVID, I think, just to try and kind of help people get through their days. And, you know, if Tom Hanks gives a speech like that, you kind of have to listen. I love him.
Wasn't
So,
that was the time he experienced it in Australia and came back to America, remember? And he was the sort of first voice that people was in politics said, "This is real, lads."
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think it was kind of off the back of, I think he had a bit of an epiphany after he played Mr. Rogers in Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which I don't know anything about Mr. Rogers, but I get from the film that he was a very positive person. And also, you know, so was Tom Hanks. And he went on to, I don't know if you've listened to it, but Kermode and Mayo have a film review podcast, and it's really good. And they always do an interview, and Tom Hanks was the interview that particular day. And throughout COVID, they picked different clips of Tom Hanks and played them at the end of every episode to cheer people up.
he, he has one of those sort of calming statement, you know, a stately demeanor, hasn't he? What I thought you were going to say was when he played Forrest Gump, the famous Forrest Gump. Okay, but yeah, no, he has. Now that you think about it, he sort
He
of
really
has that.
does.
He does, yeah. It's a calming voice, a bit like David Attenborough. You just listen to a voice, and sometimes it just puts you in a certain frame of
You've
mind.
just named one of my other favorite people in the world. So yeah, he really does. You feel like you're in good, confident hands when he's speaking with authority.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're so right. So it wouldn't really matter what comes out of their gob.
No. So
It's
the other kind
considered.
of part of that really was that the other kind of phrase that he used was, "It'll all be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end." And I know they're very simplistic things, but when you're going through a tough time and you hear Tom Hanks say something like that, you can't help but feel better.
Yeah, no, it isn't nice because time, unfortunately and unfortunately, it does actually improve things. You know,
Does.
even grumpy old men like me, who weren't always grumpy old men, you mellow and you see things differently. So time is actually it's against us because we run out of it, but it helps us because we sometimes are better at looking back on experience and say, okay, it wasn't COVID or it wasn't this, it was something else, but it too passed. So
Yeah.
that's lovely. That's lovely. Um, so Kavanagh, being Yates, they're all coming to your party. But if they weren't at your party, who else, dead or alive, would you love to rock up and give a dirty big pint of Guinness to or buy one for?
Yeah. So you've already mentioned him, David Attenborough.
I am so sorry.
But
But it was. But why? But you've already answered, have you? Is it because you want to have a little nap and his voice puts you a little sleep, or
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Well, first of all, yeah, very comforting. You can tell I've come through COVID enjoying a certain kind of person on TV, but also I think he just looks like a bit of crack. Do you not think he looks fun?
you know what? It's not. It's not a word that I ever heard associated with David Attenborough. Jeez, he looks like a bit of crack.
He
But
does look like a bit of crack.
but Ruth, I have to tell you, that way you answered that is so Irish. It's,
I think he'd love long haul. I think he'd love a pint, and I think you'd get some good stories out of him.
you probably would. And my sense is that he probably, unlike even younger people, remembers going out on his wasn't he only a stand-in? He was meant to be a cameraman or something, and he was sent out to Nairobi or wherever it was to track something, and he just fell
Yeah.
into it. He just
I
fell
think
into
he
it.
was, yeah, I think he was a producer or something.
And the voice, the person in front of the camera, either couldn't travel or got sick, and there was a
Yeah.
train leaving. So I think there's a not only him, but there's something to be learned there as well in life, isn't there? If he said, "No, I'm a producer, I can't possibly,"
Yeah.
you know, would we ever have learned? He was the voice. Jack Cousteau and him were the voice of, you know, Ballantyre in the 70s was football pitches, and Jack Cousteau and David Attenborough.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I can't think of anyone else that appeals to my 90-year-old granny and can rock the pyramid stage at Glastonbury. You know, like, can you think of another person that can do those two things and also have an actual effect, like, you know, the blue planet effect, so have a positive impact on the world as well?
No, you're right. The only one I can think of, and again, it's probably more divisive, but I heard him at the summer and the voice is gone, but he was good. Was Paul McCartney?
Yeah. But so did he played the legend stage, I think, did he? In
No, he was.
Glastonbury?
He
Or was
was.
he main stage?
He was. Yeah.
Main stage, okay.
He was. But you know what? Again, what he did was he didn't try and recreate the Beatles. He tried to be whatever an 80-plus-year-old bloke was playing classic songs.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what Attenborough does. You ever listen to him? He uses words that are 2023.
Yeah. Well, that's how you stay relevant, right? You don't get stuck in the past.
That's how you stay relevant. Exactly. So, Jesus, that's really interesting now. David Attenborough. And yeah, a voice can have such a calming effect. It's so different to sort of when you're listening to Love Island or you're listening to Britain's Got Talent or oh yeah, you
know, voice, I know.
Big Brother. It has the opposite effect, but I guess that's what they're for. But yeah, that's really great. So we have a great gang in this bar right now, in our long hall. We have all these legends. We've got living legends, but there's a lightning strike, something that you probably in your industry don't like so much. A lightning strike, and everything is vaporized except for 3 apps on your phone.
Oof.
And you're in there with Brenda Bean and all the boys. So, what are they?
God, well, that's the. I don't know if I've picked correctly now, because I've got some great chatters in there. I've got some lovely voices, and yet I kept Spotify. But I guess you still need a bit of music in the background, don't you?
You have to have Spotify.
You just have to. I know.
You just have, and what feature? I know we can have any song we want. What feature do you love the best?
Yeah, well, I listen to a lot of podcasts, as you heard. The Kermit and Mayo, probably my fave.
Yep.
And yeah, I just think it's so versatile. You know, you can have sort of focus music in the background. I love the fact that I don't have to put too much effort into finding new music. It starts to suggest things to me, although it's starting to suggest more and more kind of early noughties music to me, which I feel slightly offended by.
unless you're banging your head and you're boom, boom, boom. That's just me.
And also, when my son was a baby, the white noise that you can have on that was just a godsend. Or I just had a woman that shushed for 6 hours and just kept him asleep, you know? You can just play clips like that.
You see, this is a great thing about platforms like Spotify, is not in a million years would I ever have calming background shush music on, because it's just, I'm past that bit. But what I love is the opposite to what you've said. I like a song from the 80s and it shows me a whole either time list of other songs from that period or that genre from there all the way to now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you like this, you probably like this, you probably like this. And that keeps you current. To your point earlier, having children, which you do as well. I'm not sure what age they are. Mine are 14. So I know all the expletives from Post Malone. All of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. And sometimes I even sing along to them. But in a funny old way and in a good way, it keeps you relevant.
Yeah, yeah.
It keeps you something to chat. And music does that, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. I know. It's great. And like, because of Spotify. So my son's only 18 months old. He does like the nursery rhymes, but I can't. And if you really need them, you can get them on Spotify. But I do like that you can play songs that I will listen to and he will enjoy as well. You don't have to stick on like the TV onto a kids channel or whatever if you want to get any songs to enjoy. So
yeah, and we often say it in my world is that there are only actually 12 notes. It's quite extraordinary. Hundreds and hundreds of years, differences of genres of music that can be created. And it's a little bit like data in the world we talk about. There are only so many zeros and ones, but look what you can create with it.
I know.
And you can hear different music. Once we agree we like music, then we're okay with punk, Bach, tempo, low tempo. But just let's all agree we love music.
Yeah.
That can be the safe place to meet, and then I can listen to you. And I think if you approach a lot of things like that, you can just find that common purpose thing, which is music in this case.
Yeah.
And often I do that, and because punk, or I wouldn't even be attuned with it, but then you sort of listen to somebody and you say, oh yeah, I remember that song. Yeah.
That actually reminds me of another great feature. You know, have you ever used the blend on it? So if you know someone else's username, you can create a blend of music you like and music they like. So, and it creates a playlist. So then it's just a really great way to get to know someone else's taste.
Wow. I must say I don't use the playlist stuff of others that much, but my kids do. And they, exactly what you're saying, they have a little community, even if you only like one artist.
Yeah.
Drum beat. And you end up not feeling that you're odd, because you can go and find others that are, and therefore you don't have that isolation. So it's a funny old thing, isn't it, what these platforms do? They can make us very isolated because we're in our room too much, but they can also connect us with other people who are like-minded. What are the other two?
So another one that I absolutely love, and probably is a little bit too similar to Spotify, but I can't get rid of it, is BorrowBox, which is an amazing feature from the library. It's free audiobook, so it's basically Audible but free, and I just feel like I need to share it with the world. But BorrowBox, yeah. So once you have a library card, you can get it for free, and you can access any audiobooks, and it comes back to this thing of me loving a calming voice. But yeah, and to the point where I started to pick books based on who was actually reading them rather than what the books were. But, you know, books I'd never pick up for myself. But I
guess that's not surprising, because you know, there's a lot of people who just go to see a movie because of an actor.
Yeah.
Like my kids and I, well, my older girl, we went to see the one with Colin Farrell in The Island.
Oh yeah, Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, but we thought it was going to be like In Bruges.
Yeah. Laugh a minute.
For anyone listening, it's not In Bruges. It's brilliant, but it's not In Bruges. So no, I suppose that voice thing again. So your third and final app, what is it?
WhatsApp.
You said that with such great gusto. It obviously is a big part of keeping you connected, right?
I just don't know how anyone couldn't choose WhatsApp, really. Like, you know, I said earlier, I lived in the UK for a number of years. And when I was over there, when I first moved over, smartphones weren't a thing. So I was, you know, I had one of those call cards to ring home for probably only about 6 months before I eventually got myself a smartphone. But I had that small period of time where I didn't know couldn't contact home that much. And then smartphone came into my life. And WhatsApp came into my life. But then, you know, I lived a big chunk of my adult life in the UK, made a lot of friends there, have family there now. And now I'm back. And it's just, what a great way to stay connected, because both places sort of feel like home now to a degree. And it's just a great way to really keep those relationships going. And then when you see each other again, you pick up exactly where you left off, because you haven't lost touch.
Ruth, thank you so much.
Cheers, it's been great.
It's been such fun. Thank you for bringing me to a museum for a pint.
You're welcome.
Thank you for putting an image in my mind about a barman with a straw, which is just so wrong on so many levels.
You're never going to get that in the long haul.
No, I'm never going to get that image out of my head. Ever. That's there. It's a bit like, I don't know what the next great Disney blockbuster musical will be, but I can't get Frozen songs out of my head. because my daughter played it for 4 months on repeat. That's the other thing about Spotify. You know, maybe you can drop some of the songs that they can't get access to. But Ruth, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Lovely.
And also, thank you for joining Host in Ireland as the Executive Council member.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Bye.